Support for NPR and the following message come from Indeed. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed's sponsored jobs. Claim a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/NPR. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, y'all, are you a parent or have you talked to a parent recently? Well, newsflash, the parents are not okay. And I mean this in a couple of ways. Yes, there's the financial strain of raising a child right now, but I'm also talking about this underlying anxiety that seeps into every conversation I have with a parent. The question of, am I a good parent? For the next few weeks, we're going to look at the culture of parenting in America today. From the political propaganda that preys on new parents to the challenges of raising a child equipped to survive in our rapidly changing world. We're showing you how not to fall for the parent trap.
The parent is thinking, my identity as a parent is very important. If the child succeeds, then it shows that I'm also succeeding as a parent.
That's Cynthia Wong. She's a professor of management and organizations at Northwestern University. And she studies how fear and shame affect a parent's self-image and, in turn, their kids.
But if the child fails, then it's a reflection on my parental identity in a negative manner.
Lord have mercy. It seems like it's very driven by this idea that your child is an extension of you and you are on the hook for every single thing that could ever happen to them or that they could ever do, good, bad, or indifferent. It's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And I think identity drives so much of our decisions. We have professional identities, but one of the strongest identities is this parental identity. I mean, they're literally a part of us. And so we view them as an extension of the self.
The question of, am I a good parent, isn't a new one. But in the era of the self, the era of who am I and am I doing okay? I'm seeing some extra baggage parents are putting on themselves.
You can think of a couple different types of fear-based parenting styles.
Go ahead and ask yourself, based on your own personality, which kind of parent are you or would you be? Are you a perfectionist parent?
So it's this idea of overachievement pressure. You need to get those straight A's. You need to become a lawyer or a doctor. And it's this desire to put pressure on the kids to be perfect. And you would think that that pressure is coming from, I want my child to succeed, but often it's a self-reflection of the parent.
Or are you a helicopter parent?
It's the belief that if I can monitor things, nothing bad will happen. And if you think about it, it is driven by fear. It's fear of chaos. It's fear of the unknown. And a typical behavior you see from that is that you're going to overprotect. You're going to be constantly checking the child. And what that's trying to manage is the emotion itself. It's, hey, I'm going to manage my fear, and that's not necessarily helpful to the child.
Regardless of whether or not you're a parent, how much of your decision-making is driven by fear versus shame? Or a mix of both? And then you add on top of that the never-ending input from your friends, family, and the media on who you are quote-unquote supposed to be. And suddenly you're spiraling out over whether or not you're doing you right. Today on the show, I'm joined by Karen Leik, author of Parents, Media, and Panic Through the Years.
Thank you.
And Cynthia Wong, clinical professor of management and organizations at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're getting into the fear, shame, and moral panic that's driving modern parenting, and how those emotions are core to all of our anxieties, whether we're parents or not. Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Okay, so I wonder, Cynthia, then on like a psychological level, how do parents' brains interpret threats to their children's health or their children's well-being? Like, I'm not thinking like an immediate threat, like a rabid dog. You know what I mean? I think everyone's brain goes into fight or flight and you pick up your kid and you run. But I wonder about more like perceived threats. Like if a parent is seeing on the news that video games will corrupt their child's mind, what leads them to gain new information like that and then maybe to decide, oh, I need to take video games away from my child, or, oh, I need to put my child on an even stricter curfew, or, oh, I need to remove all of the, plastic from our home.
Yeah, and that's a great question. In terms of a lot of the research I do, it's about how do people react to uncertainty and a loss of control. And so when we see these threats in the environment, whether it's, these games or these comic books or things that are unknown, and psychologically what happens to parents is that when they are in a situation of threat, they look to seek patterns in the environment that can help explain things. And on top of that, they use oversimplified explanations to try to regain agency. So in parenting, what this can mean is that they're clinging on to what they view as the right ways of parenting, things that will prevent anything bad from happening. And what's the best way to prevent bad things from happening? Well, let's take it away. Let's get rid of it, rather than, hey, let's unpack this. Let's unpack our feelings of fear and why it's driving it. You're focusing on the object of fear and trying to take it away.
I wonder, can fear ever be helpful in parenting? Like, what's the difference between a healthy fear and an irrational, dangerous fear? Karen, let's hear from you first on this.
Well, what parents are really scared of is this kind of loss of control that I think Cynthia has actually sort of identified as well. Not just that you don't know exactly what your kid is reading or what they're talking to their friends about, but also just how it affects them. However, sometimes we should give our adolescents more credit for being critical thinkers and being able to choose friends wisely. And if we talk to them about some of their choices instead of assuming that they will make the worst choice, I think we might end up, having better conversations.
What tends to be the impact of parental fears on the rest of society, including those of us like myself who don't have children?
One effect is that sometimes there are regulations or actual legislation put into place around certain technologies. So if you remember the panic around video games, then leads to ESRB being developed in all those little ratings that are on video games now.
Right, the video game rating system.
I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, for example. It sounds like, some of the anxiety around TikTok was moral panic.
There's a lot going on with TikTok.
But if a platform goes away, it affects a lot of people, sometimes financially, who have nothing to do with, anxiety over kids or young people.
And even just thinking, about vaccines,
right,
COVID-19 vaccines have become a lot more difficult to obtain for many people as a result of vaccine hesitancy among parents who are concerned about the reasons behind their child's autism diagnosis. To be clear, there is no scientific evidence that vaccines and autism are in any way connected, but that kind of parental fear is what drove that movement to its prominence.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is also that when this fear perpetuates and it grows, things are becoming more polarized. There's a black and a white now, so that can kind of grow into something that's bigger than just the issue about parenting. It becomes something that's actually politically polarizing.
Coming up,
children are really sensitive. They absorb emotional tone. So if you have an over-controlling tendency, it teaches the child that they can't trust themselves.
Stay with us.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Hydro. Don't let the holidays derail your fitness. Stay on track with Hydro. 20 minutes rowing on a Hydro targets 86% of your muscles as Olympians guide you from incredible locations worldwide. GQ named the Hydro Arc the best rower of 2025. And every Hydro comes with free shipping, a 30-day trial, and warranty. Go to hydro.com, code NPR, save up to $600 on your next rower. Hydro.com, code NPR.
This message comes from Schwab. Everyone has moments when they could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab. Get market insights, education, and human help when you need it.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Hydro. Don't let the holidays derail your fitness. Stay on track with Hydro. 20 minutes rowing on a Hydro targets 86% of your muscles as Olympians guide you from incredible locations worldwide. GQ named the Hydro Arc the best rower of 2025. And every Hydro comes with free shipping, a 30-day trial, and warranty. Go to hydro.com, code NPR, save up to $600 on your next rower. Hydro.com, code NPR. This message comes from Scholastic with The Free State of Jax by #1 New York Times bestselling author Jennifer A. Nielsen. Brimming with mystery and intrigue, this charmingly quirky and heartfelt coming-of-age story follows the journey of a boy fighting for his freedom and a place to call home. The Free State of Jax by Jennifer A. Nielsen is available now wherever books are sold.
I want to bring some more research about mothers into this. According to Pew Research, about half of mothers, 51%, say they are the type of parent who tends to be overprotective, compared with 38% of fathers. We also know mothers say they feel that they're judged more harshly for the behavior and presentation of their children. 41% of mothers say they feel judged at least sometimes by other parents in their community, compared with 27% of fathers. Historically, how have these fear campaigns targeted mothers?
Well, that's actually a really interesting point, because if you look at kind of the history of all of these conversations around new media, whether you're going all the way back to radio or you're looking at television, many of these articles and discussions are in women's magazines. So if you look at Ladies' Home Journal or Good Housekeeping or some of these magazines that a lot of women got every single month, they would have these long articles about basically what you're saying, how to be a good parent. And a lot of them are kind of fear-based. And the articles that are about these kind of like new media that are really disturbing to people get a lot of attention. So I think it's really interesting now to see how that's kind of been transformed in the social media sphere.
I wonder, Cynthia, we're talking a lot about like some of these parenting fears and anxieties that sometimes meet insistent marketing campaigns and can turn into fear-based parenting style that doesn't really work for anybody.
Yeah.
What tends to be the impact on children of parents who act on these pervasive fears?
Children are really sensitive. They absorb emotional tone. So if you have an over-controlling tendency, it teaches the child that they can't trust themselves. Perfectionism teaches them that I'm only safe when I'm perfect. And all this anxiety around the world and the fear that's being spread to parents, that anxiety also spreads to the child because it's teaching the child that the world is unsafe. So I think one thing to think about is this could be an emotional echo. This could influence the child such that our kids learn that anxiety is the price of caring almost.
Ooh, anxiety is the price of caring. I think a lot of people are going to be taking that to therapy this week. That's a really good one. I'm wondering, what do some of these parenting fears, parenting panics reflect about our times? And even thinking about current parenting panics, what are they reflecting about our times right now?
I can speak to it from the vaccine hesitancy point. When there's a lot of uncertainty in a particular time, let's say during pandemics, during COVID-19, for example, during Ebola, these types of events have sparked historically and even more recently this sense of uncertainty. And what we tend to see during those times are that conspiracy theories tend to abound a lot more, whether it's microchips in your vaccines, or during Ebola, it was, of course, manufactured in a lab and spread by pharmaceutical organizations. So what we tend to see over and over is that this uncertainty of the situation, some sort of big event, uncertain event is happening, it drives a lack of control. And then people become a lot more vaccine hesitant because of that. And parents particularly are very driven by these fears because, once again, it's a combination of their parental identity plus all the uncertainty in the environment. So this is why fear-based messages take hold when parents feel powerlessness and they start distrusting systems, bigger institutions. They'll reject expert advice as a way to try to reclaim control, right? And because of that, they might say, hey, I don't want my kid to get vaccinated. It's too risky because of this distrust they feel.
Karen, I'd love to hear from you on this as well. Like, what do you think the parenting fears of today or the sort of parenting panics of today are reflecting about our current culture?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I hope you don't mind if I answer in a very Chicago-specific way.
Go for it. We love Chicago
I'm
over
okay
here.
with that.
We're both in Chicago, and I feel like one really interesting sort of additional factor in Chicago right now is that ICE is everywhere. And so we have an actual fear that is really quite serious. I think a lot of parents want to check in with their kids when they have a fear of something that's going on. It's interesting to me that actually having a phone is helpful, right? It actually really helps that particular emergency. But I totally agree that technology allows us to be a little bit more invasive, right, than we used to be, for sure.
In this example, right, if you're tracking someone, there's reasons why you might want to track your child for logistical purposes. But when it becomes dangerous is when that anxiety is driven by, well, oh gosh, I have to track their every move because they might be abducted or something, or a lot of things that are low probability. And that fear drives decisions. That's when it becomes, I think, challenging and difficult and potentially bad.
Okay, so there's a lot in the balance here, right? There are some really positive things that parental anxiety or parental fear has done that has improved safety for everybody. But I'm wondering, there's also been plenty of examples that we've discussed where parental fear drove perhaps a certain segment of society to move in a way that maybe wasn't best for everybody, including the parents and the children. Overall, how can parents discern between legit causes for concern versus someone trying to manipulate an emotional response from them or someone trying to capitalize on their anxieties?
Yeah, I think one important thing is, of course, you have to do a lot more research these days. You have to make sure the media you're consuming is from a legitimate source. And part of it is taking that time to realize that fear is an automatic response and taking a step back and saying, wait, what's driving my reaction? And being able to understand that fear is driving your reaction. So it's kind of a combination of self-reflection in terms of understanding your own emotions, but additionally, after self-reflecting and kind of dampening those emotions is taking a step beyond and making sure what you are looking at is legitimate.
Historically, in the examples I've given before, what makes parents most anxious is something that's new that they don't know about or they feel excluded from. So I think one thing that really helps is if you're really scared about something that your teen is doing or is participating in, talk to them about it. So it's much scarier if you really don't know what it is, if you're not engaged in it, or you just feel like this is scary. I can't participate in this. It's the type of pattern that we see. The parents will say, this makes my kid antisocial. And it just means they don't know how to talk to their kid about it. Be open to what they're doing. Be curious, be interested, ask questions. It's fun. It's a really fun conversation.
Oh my gosh. I really appreciate this. Cynthia, Karen, thank you both so much.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
That was Karen Like, author of Parents, Media, and Panic Through the Years, and Cynthia Wong, clinical professor of management and organizations at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. So you all know I love hearing from you. And over the past few weeks, some of you have left the sweetest notes for me in the comments and reviews. One of y'all wrote, "This is my favorite podcast produced by NPR." Me too. Another wrote, "Thanks for enriching my life." You guys, I'm blushing. And if any of those comments resonate with you, I would love, love, love it if you rated and reviewed this show wherever you're listening. It helps other people find the show, and that means this community we're building will get even bigger. So join the team. Rate and review this show right now. And thank you. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Antonio Rose.
This episode was edited by
Nina Pathak.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs.
Farmer Tanner Pace shares a moment that brings him a sense of purpose.
I think that when the barn doors open and the hens run to the paddocks, you can truly see what a happy hen really is. I love pasture-raised eggs because you can see the work and the pride that the farmers have and have put into these eggs.
To learn more about how Vital Farms farmers care for their hens, visit vitalfarms.com.
This message comes from Solidigm. Yesterday's approach to storage can't meet the demands of today's AI ambitions. Bigger, faster, and more energy efficient, Solidigm solid-state storage solutions are optimized for AI. Learn more at storageforai.com.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Starting at $15 a month, make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. $45 upfront payment for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan equivalent to $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. First 3 months only. See terms.